So, today we received an update from Gaijin, the one we were waiting for, essentially. They have decided to tell us what they're actually going to do going forward. What we were expecting at a minimum was an update on the economy, and that's what this particular tidbit is. Hardly can call it a tidbit considering the size of that scroll bar. However, yeah, well, we'll just say it's thorough. And also, it does not just involve the economy, now does it? There's this whole other roadmap, that's the other thing that they said they would provide, and it involves a lot more than just economy changes. Several people have already gone over this, plenty of CCs. However, I've not yet, at least within the circle that I follow, seen anyone do a true, not a deep dive, but a full sort of, I don't know, a full analysis, a full look, and listing out of everything that they're actually going to be doing. Obviously, you can read this for yourself, but I know plenty of people do not care to read things as long as this, and maybe you can just stick this on in the background. I would prefer that while you're doing something else. Maybe you're, grinding. And this is something that you could listen to, or if you want to read along, I will have everything on the screen in front of you as we go ahead and read through this. We're going to start with the economy revision post, because it is a very detailed look into exactly what they're doing with the economy stuff. Over on the roadmap, they have a bunch more summarized, shortened, itemized sort of list or set of lists with a lot less detail. So we'll go into the things they have a lot of detail on first, and then we'll go to the roadmap and catch up with all the stuff that is not in the economy revision section. So with all of that out of the way, let's start taking a look at what this actually is. So first of all, they have their big opening talking about, we'd like to express our gratitude for patience. We understand many of you are eager to receive concrete information regarding our plans and actions in a timely manner. Which this pretty much is. I mean, if they were only going to do minor changes, if they're going to do, the bare minimum, which plenty of people I'm sure accepted, or rather, plenty of people I'm sure expected, myself included, a shorter time span would have been nice. However, this is extremely comprehensive and very wide-reaching, so considering that, I'd say this was a very timely manner as far as how quickly they got this out and got it all together. They did one thing that was really funny that I noticed is that they just straight up said, hey, we have, well, verbatim, we have conducted long-time tests on thousands of random players by increasing their progression speeds with different ratios and analyzing their long-term engagement compared to baseline. So that I find absolutely hilarious, because that means that random people have just had their progression rates changed by Gaijin manually without notice so that they can check your engagement levels as a result. That's kind of wild. And I kind of love it. But yeah, there's nothing really else here. It's just your sort of standard introduction, explaining what they're doing in very broad terms and all that kind of PR language and whatever. How, we were already planning to do a lot of this stuff, but we're just doing it at an accelerated rate. Nobody, I think, or rather very few people, I think, would actually believe that, frankly. I don't think they were planning on doing any of this, considering the direction they were already going in that they've now had to reverse. They probably weren't planning on doing 90% of this stuff, but it's easy enough for them to say, hey, we were planning on doing this over a long period of time, but now we're going to do it a lot quicker because the community is, in an uproar. Whatever, that's just their little paragraph of saving face. Let's just look at what they're actually doing. You guys are linked to the roadmap right there, but we're going to stay on this because you get all these nice details about each individual thing. So, the first change that they are doing in the economy is they are modifying the balance of silver lions, as they say. This is, again, this is more of a general assessment of, currently some people are, in the negative and they have to change what they're playing in order to actually make SL and all that kind of stuff. They mentioned repair costs and how they base repair costs on a vehicle's effective performance in battle. Best performing vehicles would have the highest repair cost, requiring players to excel in battle to maintain a positive balance. And how they wanted to enhance the variety of vehicles encountered in the game by making the vehicles that were better at earning credits have higher repair costs, which all of that is sort of a really weird mindset that they've maintained for all these years. However, what they're essentially doing now is recognizing that repair costs have been going up, but SL gain has not been going up accordingly. And what they're essentially going to do is stop balancing repair costs vehicle by vehicle. They're going to group vehicles into categories and ranks. So, for example, rank 4 fighters, or rank 6 bombers, or rank 2 attack planes. And those groups will be balanced together. And they're going to use that as a way to sort of prevent, F2 Saber has a 20 bajillion repair cost when no other rank 5, or was it rank 6 actually, I think. Rank 6 fighters, most of the others have much lower repair costs. You avoid situations like that. So, like all rank 6 fighters would have the same repair cost essentially, and they're going to bring the overall repair cost down quite a bit. Which is a really, really good thing. So, for example, they point out a few specific things. Ground vehicles of ranks 5 through 7 across all modes will see a reduction in repair costs ranging from 15 to 40%, accompanied by, this is the other thing they're doing, reward multiplier increases between 20 and 50%. That is certainly something. The minimum buff being 20% and the maximum being 50%. These ranges, even though they are significant ranges, this is a big deal. I don't know if this is at all what anyone was expecting. I think it's an extremely positive change. There isn't really any other way to spin it. Lowering repair costs by a good chunk and raising the reward multipliers by a good chunk alongside it. That's going to help the credit economy a lot. And there's just all sort of specifics in here you can read for yourself if you'd like, giving examples of exact vehicles and what their situations are going to be. So, if you play the J29F Error B, your repair cost is going to go from 20k to 12.7k, and your reward multiplier is going to go from 2.8 to 3.8, which is, that's a big deal. That is that section. They've included full tables of all of the stats in that regard that are going to be changing, the repair costs and reward changes. So you can go and look at those as well. And this section here is something that they want the community to vote on as far as these economy changes. This is going to be triggering this month if the vote goes through, and I don't see any reason why it won't go through. This is a huge, huge positive for the economy. And when the alternative is this or the status quo, this wins hands down. I don't see any reason why you would prefer the current economy over these changes. This is awesome. Whether or not it's enough, who knows? But it's a massive step in the right direction. They aren't just taking little tiny micro moves in the opposite direction to appease. They are straight up just saying, yep, we're going to increase the rewards by a big chunk, and we're going to decrease the repair cost by a big chunk, which is a fantastic change. It's more than a good start, frankly. Next, we have a very interesting feature, which is actually really creative and good. I don't know if this was a direct suggestion from any of the CCs, but they're going to add a feature to premium accounts, which will automatically reimburse any SL that you lose that puts you below 0 for the total of the earnings for the match. So basically, in a match where normally if in that match you before would have lost SL net, at the end of the match, the total SL you make is negative. If you have a premium account, it will automatically wipe that out and just bring it up to 0. So if you have a premium, you will never lose credits from a match. Personally, I haven't seen actual credit loss from games before, but my perspective is massively skewed. Yeah. So overall, though, that adds even more value to a premium account, which was already the most efficient use of your GE, essentially. Well, arguably, next to getting a premium vehicle in the tree you're trying to grind. That is a very nice feature for premium accounts, especially if you're not, up in the top 5% of players. This is a really nice feature to have, and it guarantees that you're going to get a certain amount of value out of your account. Next we have dynamic reduction of repair costs, which is a very odd one. What this is essentially going to do is start your repair cost down at a much lower value, and then for every minute that you remain alive in the match, your repair cost works its way up to the, quoted repair cost of the vehicle. So say you're, at least the way this appears to work, is that say you have a tank that has a repair cost of 5,000 SL. It's not going, if you charge in and within a minute or within a couple minutes, you just die right off the bat, you're not going to pay that entire 5,000 SL. You're going to pay maybe, 1 or 2,000. Maybe it's not that low. Maybe you pay 3,000 or 4,000, whatever. But you're going to get a discount on your repair cost because you weren't able to play for very long in that vehicle. It's certainly a positive change on the surface. It's probably overall a positive change. It would encourage, to my mind, rather it wouldn't encourage, but it would lower the discouragement of charging headfirst to every fight, because it's not as big of a deal if you just get knocked out right away. But at the same time, encouraging aggressive play is kind of important, because especially or primarily in ground battles, it is very beneficial a lot of the times to have a very sedentary or, very resistant hang back, play it safe, camp or snipe or whatever. So to encourage aggressive play by saying, hey, if you charge in at the beginning and it doesn't happen to work out, you won't be penalized as much. That sounds fine. Another thing that means is that if you are at your spawn, for example, say you're sort of in the mid to late game and the enemy is closing in on your spawn, you don't have to worry about spawning in and then 10 seconds after spawn, as soon as your protection goes away, some guy on a hill instantly snipes you who can see your spawn, just waiting for you to come off spawn protection, and just kills you, and there goes, 4,000 or 5,000 credits. You don't have to worry about that anymore, because then you're just going to pay the minimum repair cost. So that's going to be way less of a big deal. Overall, it's a very, very good change, I think. I feel like any negatives that this might bring would be very minor compared to the positives. Improvements for premium vehicles is the next one. This is the backups, right? Yeah, so how this works, basically they're just saying, hey, premium vehicles are going to be receiving the same benefits as everything else, so they're going to stay at the same relative reward compared to the standard vehicles after all these changes are implemented. And the other thing is that they're going to give backups with purchase of a premium vehicle. So when you buy a premium vehicle, you automatically are going to get some backups, which will be nice. Very nice for ground RB, because, anybody from a new player to a veteran player, if there's someone on your team who just has a premium tank that they're grinding with and that's their whole lineup, they run in and they die, and then that's their entire game, that's not very helpful to you compared to somebody who actually brings a full lineup and plays it out. So giving people some backups will be very nice because it will allow them to do more in each battle, and it'll allow them to help out the team more in each battle. That is a very positive change. Revising team killing penalties. Yes, this one is interesting. So the first change that they're doing with this is that if you are team killed, you do not pay any repair cost whatsoever. That is something that should have been a feature from day one. This is not a congrats Gaijin, you did an awesome thing moment. This is a thanks for finally adding this moment. Which there are certainly a few of those. But this is a very clear case of that. That should have been the case from the very beginning. But at least they've done it now. Now you don't have to pay repairs if you're team killed. There's also this very cool apology mechanic, as they call it, where if you are team killed, you have the opportunity to forgive the person who team killed you, which prevents them from, it sort of prevents the team kill from counting against them for, like, game auto-moderation. So, you know, if you do too much team damage or team kill too many people, it'll kick you out of the match. It will apply penalties to your account, all that kind of stuff. This basically allows you to forgive the person, and then they do not receive any penalty points towards the moderation system, which is kind of cool, I think. There's a SL penalty. I feel like it'd be kind of cool if it also reduced the penalty that they got for team killing you, but that's something for other people to debate about. That's just a thought that I had. That's still the not having to pay repairs when you're team killed and being able to forgive somebody who team kills you, and then they don't have to face actual moderation penalties. That's all very nice. And then actually also it notifies everybody in the match, because it puts a notification in the battle chat that you forgave the person, which is another good thought, because if you've ever seen team killing, you've seen at some point a cascade of somebody team kills someone and then that person is then team killed somebody else. So this will prevent that from happening. Give them, or in theory it will. It'll alleviate that problem. That's a very nice touch. It's a very good thought that I'm glad they had after they decided that they wanted to go with this apology mechanic. Capture point rewards, they're also going to update how RP/SL is handed out for capping points, so that if you quote-unquote assist in capturing a point, it will actually still give you credit. It's not clear exactly how this is going to work, but it'll give either partial or full credit if you die while helping to cap a point, and the point is capped by your other teammates afterwards. It'll give you partial credit or full credit. Either way, that's whether it should give partial credit or full credit, I really don't know. I feel like it should be partial, possibly. Maybe giving you credit based on how much of the point you capped before you died. However, I'm not 100% sure on that. And we're not 100% sure which one it is. So we will see how that's implemented. This one's very basic. They're going to add more details to the battle log, telling you exactly where your RP and your SL came from. That's a very good change. Not sure exactly how they're going to implement that. Whether you'll see, you know, this much from ground targets, this much from AI air targets, this much from shooting down players, or whether it'll give you, you know, unit by unit, kill by kill. You killed 3 times light pillbox for X amount of RP. You killed 2 times CL-13 Saber for X amount of RP. Where it is on that spectrum of detail, who knows, but adding more details to that to give you more feedback and better feedback on how exactly you're getting your points is very good. And it'll be very nice to sort of look back and assess exactly what you're getting for each action in battle, and then you can decide what's really worth it in a battle and increase your RP gain efficiency. That'll be very nice. This one, so they're getting into progression in RP, yeah, so there's some fun stuff down here. Folded vehicles. This one's very simple, but very, very good. So, twofold this change. First of all, they're going to be adding more vehicles into folders. That is very good because that makes more research optional. Very, very nice, considering the massive bloat of the grind over the years. We really need to cut down on the amount of necessary research to get from point A to point B. Lots of people, especially because of the advertising, are joining the game to play the high-tier vehicles, and there's so much that you have to get through in order to get to those. So reducing that. Obviously, you still have the rank unlock requirements, but in some cases, just having to go down a tree. For example, if you've already gotten through the ranks and you're just trying to go down another branch, all that's in your way is how many vehicles are in that line of that branch. This will help in that case, and in other cases where you have more vehicles that are required in the actual rank. More vehicles in the rank that are required to unlock the next rank. Basically, just making more research optional is in general. But what they're doing alongside that, because of their big point is, we want to have people play folder vehicles more because they don't play them very much. And I mean, why would you play them very much? It's not efficient at all to play folder vehicles. However, part of their way of solving this and what they're going to do along with foldering more vehicles, which is, again, a direct 180 from what they were going to do before. They were going to unfolder more vehicles. They're going to folder more vehicles, and they're going to make them half cost. Notably, not SL cost, but they're going to make them half RP cost. This, I think, is a case of a good start. It is a very, very good start to folder more stuff and make the foldered vehicles 50% cost, because you do not typically gain much for researching said foldered vehicles in the grand scheme of things. So and they tend to be minor variants of vehicles. Think Griffin Spitfires. The base model, first in the folder Griffin Spitfire might be very different from the last one, the Mark 24, but the 3 in the middle there, or 4, however much it is these days, going from one to the next, it's a very minor change. It's very annoying that you have to do full cost research to get these very minor changes. So cutting that in half is very good. I think they should go further. Not only should they be half RP cost, they should be half credit cost, honestly. Encourage people even more to play these foldered vehicles. They've already unlocked the base model, so it really shouldn't cost that much to get these little minor variants. Bring the SL cost down to 50% along with the RP cost, and consider bringing it even lower. Considering how minor some of these variants are, you could even do it on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes you have minor variants, sometimes you have major variants in folders. So, to where, the reduction maybe for major variants is 50% and 50%, and then for a very minor change to the vehicle, consider like 80 and 80. Because you're not really researching an entirely new vehicle, are you? You have another vehicle to fill out your lineup, sure. It's not very different from what you already have. So I would say ideally they could consider higher reductions on a case-by-case basis at the very least. And definitely in any case should consider lowering the SL cost alongside the RP cost. Regardless, this is a very good step in the right direction yet again. This is a very basic one, just overall considering reducing research and purchase cost of rank 6 through rank 7 aircraft. That is a good idea, obviously, but in particular, people have pointed out that the costs for rank 6 and rank 7 alongside rank 8 are just so high. It balloons so fast, the RP and SL costs for these vehicles. You bleed SL, and it takes so long to get through these vehicles, especially in ground battles where the average RP gain rate is something like half as fast as in air. It's such an effort to grind through, especially rank 6 and 7, which is what they're looking at, in order to get at those cool rank 8 aircraft. and to get to the rank 7 tanks. They're not looking at tanks yet. And here, initially we intended to address the progression of ranks 6 through 7 for both aircraft and ground vehicles simultaneously once rank 8 ground vehicles were introduced. However, we've decided to separate these events and prioritize reducing the research cost of these aircraft sooner. So, they were going to address the issue. This I do believe. They were going to, because they've done this before, as they've been adding new ranks, they have reduced the cost of preceding vehicles. They've done that in steps before. It's happened. There's precedent. However, looking at this early, because we do have rank 8 aircraft already, looking at this early and reducing costs now for the rank 6 and rank 7 aircraft is obviously very good. Overall, I think most people would agree there should be a much wider consideration here and a much more a much stronger consideration to further reduce the cost. I don't know exactly what the cost looks like, how linear it is or how ballooned it is exactly at the top, going from rank 1 to rank 8 for RP and SL costs, but it really does feel like even in rank 5, the costs are a bit much. With how many vehicles there are these days and how high the ranks go, overall the costs should probably go down. However, another way they could do it, aside from lowering RP costs of everything, they could raise RP gain for vehicles. But that is something else entirely. This is at the very least a sort of planned and expected adjustment, but a good one. Now this one's fun. This one is really good. Basically, what they're planning on doing, finally, as has been suggested many times, is they're going to apply RP gain bonuses, percentage gain bonuses, to your battle results based on your individual performance in knocking out the enemy team. So they give an example here. Tank arcade battles. As an idea, tank arcade battles rank 3. If you destroy 3 enemies, you get a 15% RP bonus. If you destroy 6, you get a 30%. If you destroy 9, you get a 50%. This is a fantastic change. This directly rewards a very good play. It makes it feel like much less of a waste when you fly out in a bottom tier aircraft and go get an ace and you still lose the match because your team lets you down. And normally that feels terrible because you lose that, whatever it is, 50-40% extra RP that you get for winning the match. But if you do well enough, you can completely negate the penalty for losing a match by just being good and doing well enough in a match. This is a fantastic change that encourages good play and rewards players who did everything they could and despite that lost the game. This is fantastic. I cannot say enough good things about this change. It makes me so incredibly happy. This is something else that I very much like. If you have a top vehicle in a tree, so let's actually let's actually read this because I want to get this 100% right. This is just talking about the current state of things, how it's annoying when you've already finished out a tree, 2 trees, 3 trees, whatever, and then you want to get into a new nation, or a new nation is released, and now you gotta start all over again, and that's an annoying thing that happens. So, certain vehicles will be marked as top vehicles. Let's just read this verbatim. In the research tree, certain vehicles will be marked as top vehicles for each nation at any given time. Once a player gets one of these vehicles, they will receive an RP bonus when researching other nations where they haven't yet obtained the top vehicles. The size of the bonus will depend on the rank and will be applicable for the first 3 battles each day. So, The way this appears to work, just based on what's visible here, is that you will have a few vehicles in each tech tree that are marked as the top vehicles. Once you unlock one of those vehicles in a tree, you are now marked as a player, as someone who has a top vehicle. And now, when you go to a different tech tree, and you decide to go down that tech tree and start grinding and getting towards those top vehicles, you get an RP discount because you have already gotten to the end of one tech tree. So all the other tech trees you decide to go down, you will get a discount while researching vehicles in those tech trees. Higher ranked vehicles, but still, you get a discount. So what they're planning on doing is having a 15, this is all subject to change, a 15% RP gain bonus for researching rank 4, 25% for rank 5, 35% for rank 6, and 50% for rank 7 and 8. That is huge. Especially, if you're trying to power grind out a tree, you get a top tier premium, you have a premium account, and you are grinding out, say, I don't know, the Israeli air tree. You have the Kafir Canard, which actually I have, and I'm currently power grinding with it, so that's sort of, came to mind. So you have the Kafir Canard, you have a premium account, you're playing that Israeli air tree, you want to get up to those cool modified American jets that the Israelis have, and the French jets and whatever else. If you have already completed another tree, or rather have gotten to the top vehicles in another tree, and you're at the home stretch, you're researching rank 7 and rank 8 in that Israeli tech tree, your RP is going up by 50%. If you have a good game, currently, a good long match, say 15 or 20 minutes, and you do really well, you get somewhere between 30 and 35,000 RP. Suddenly, that turns into more like, 40,000, 45,000 RP. That is a very big deal. This is a great change. It's going to make researching new trees much, much nicer. And I'm so glad that they did that. That is, that's the same thing they just said back up here with, more detailed battle log. I don't know why they mentioned the detailed battle log again. Right, more comfort, detailed about your enemy battles, so the research points you over. Okay, yeah, cool. So that is everything about the economy changes in the economy change post. That is a lot. That is a lot of good stuff. Now they do mention, I don't remember if it's in this or if it's in the roadmap that we're about to look at, they do mention specifically, all of these things are subject to change, all of these things could be removed if they do not fit. What did they say? They said something like, don't fit the something of the game. So they're sort of covering themselves by saying, hey, we can reverse stuff if we need to. But I wouldn't be too worried about that, because they saw what we did when they proposed their previous economy changes. So if they decide to go back on their word now, if they hype everybody up like this, and they say we're going to do this and this and this and this and this, all these awesome things that everybody loves, and then they decide, you know what, no, this isn't working out, we're going to revert these. The backlash that we had better cause had better be even larger than what happened before. They will not get away with that, and we will make sure of it. So with that in mind, that's all the economy stuff. Now we get to the roadmap. The roadmap is much more bullet point summary style stuff. At the end, we will go over when all of the changes will be happening exactly, because it is broken up over the next few months, essentially the rest of the year. But we will get to that at the end. First, we're going to go down the roadmap and find all the stuff that was not mentioned in the economy revisions post. So, Silver Alliance mechanics, we pretty much already went through all of this. Free backups, repair cost, yep, all of that. all covered. Research points, yep, covered all of that. That's all in the economy revisions post. These two initial sections, essentially, are being repeated. They're apparently revising naval progression. I do play naval, but I do not play it nearly enough to comment on any of the changes that they make towards it. All I can really say is that I don't think the progression in naval is fast enough, in the same way that I don't think the progression in ground is fast enough. Ground and naval seem to be consistently below the rates at which you gain RP from playing air for about the same performance. So hopefully this gives naval some faster progression. It would also be nice if they just straight up looked at ground and said, hey, ground needs some faster progression. But that's something they didn't decide to touch on. That's about the only sore point that I have. Other updates. So here's where the new stuff starts. This is really, 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 really good, and I've said that a lot, and this is, this is no exception. Basically what they're doing is they're taking FPE, they're taking parts, and they're taking countermeasures, and they are giving everybody FPE parts and countermeasures in a nerfed state stock. So, for example, on your tank, you will have an FPE that can put out one fire automatically. When you get a tank, you will have one charge of FPE stock. When you get a tank, you will have a nerfed version of parts stock, so you can repair your vehicle. Arcade battles, repair mechanics. The specifics of this are not 100% clear. Research over field repair of all modules, not only mobility and partial functionality. So what that probably means is that it will repair like normal, but for example, maybe everything is yellow or everything is orange after you repair it. So it's not parts. You still have to research parts, but even without parts, you can still repair your tank to a functional state. That's really good. Countermeasures is even better, because what they're doing to give a nerfed stock countermeasures is they're just giving you flares. So normally when you have countermeasures, if assuming the aircraft has chaff and flares, you can select your mix. So you can select flares, you can select chaff, you can select mixed, flare priority, all these options. They just lock those options out until you research countermeasures. If you don't have countermeasures researched, you can just have the default flares option. I was thinking that they might, when I heard, because people on the server were talking about this before I even managed to read it all. And when somebody said, hey, they're giving out, free parts and FPE, and somebody mentioned countermeasures, I figured what they would do to nerf it is they would, give you half or a quarter countermeasures stock, and then you have to unlock it, and it gives you the rest of them. But no, you can just have the full amount of flares with a vehicle, and that's a big deal, because by far flares are the most valuable countermeasure. It's the one you need the most. Chaff is useful in very specific situations, but most of the time you need flares. So the fact that you're getting fully functional, full capacity flares stock, that is a very big deal. That is awesome. It's so nice. It's the biggest gripe that everybody has with grinding new jets, and I'm glad they fixed it. Now, this leaves one final thing. They fixed stock missiles. You now get stock heat seekers with all of your jets. They have now fixed stock countermeasures. You now get flares with all of your jets. What I would like to see is, at the very least, in the future, on rank 8 aircraft, you get a basic version of your radar missiles stock. For example, a Tomcat can equip, say, 2 AIM-7Fs, an A model Tomcat, so it only has F model Sparrows if I remember correctly. Or no, it has E2s, whatever it is. If you have a basic radar missile, whatever your lowest rank radar missile is in that vehicle, you get 2 of them stock. Just like you get your lowest rank heat-seeking missile, you get 2 of them stock. You should get the radar missiles alongside those heat seekers at rank 8 and above, I feel would be a fair way of doing it. We're not getting that yet, but this is step 2 out of 3, and it is by far the most significant step they have taken and will ever take when it comes to solving stock grind at top tier. Awesome, awesome change. Mission point reward for repair and fire extinguishing assists of allies. That is just nice. That they're now going to reward you for helping teammates repair and helping teammates put out fires. That should have been a thing from the second they enabled those functions, but it's here now, so that's nice. This one's really cool, and it's really unique. It's a well thought out change, and I've said this with another change. I don't know if this was a direct suggestion. If it wasn't, then good on Gaijin for thinking of it. Helicopter research and progression. By playing ground vehicles, a player will be able to select either tank or helicopter to channel the research points in ground battles. That is so nice. It means that you can choose to put your ground research, all of the RP you gain from playing tanks, into researching helicopters. Helicopter research is in shambles and has been since the moment they added helicopters. This is a band-aid solution, but it's a cool and good temporary band-aid solution to progressing with helicopters. You can choose if you want to, for example, if you have top tier in tanks, to then put your research points towards researching the helicopters so that you can then have those to play with your tank lineup. Very good, very cool change. This is adding limited battle tasks and battle pass tasks to air sim. I don't really play air sim anymore other than occasionally jumping in rank 3 or rank 4 props. I don't know what the current state of having battle tasks in sim was, so I can't really comment on that. Battle tasks and battle pass tasks available in ground simulator battles. So same thing for ground sim. Sim guys can talk about that as much as they want. I don't really, again, I don't play sim a whole lot. Only occasionally for fun. Progress of daily login reward in PC. So, you can now, or rather, in the next major update, and we'll get to the timing at the end, like I said, you can collect your daily login reward by going to the War Thunder app. I don't have the War Thunder app installed. I will be installing it now, and I will be getting that daily login reward every single day. I have not been getting it every day because I don't feel like logging into War Thunder every day. I'll log in every few days most of the time, but now that it's as simple as opening an app and hitting a button, that's really nice. That means that a lot more people are going to be getting nicer login rewards more consistently, and people who have to be away from their PCs for a while will still be able to get these login rewards. Very nice change. They should still improve the login rewards for very long streaks, but being able to maintain the streak easier at the very least is a nice change. Matchmaking changes. So they're turning off night battles. A bunch of people have been complaining for a while about night battles, myself included to a very minor extent, because you can end up in night battles with no night vision against people who have night vision, and that is terrible. So temporarily they're just going to shut them off, and then later on they're going to bring them back, but you sort of opt into night battles. I personally will be opting in, because overall I do think they're cool, but it's nice that you'll be able to opt out. Changing match settings, this is a thing we can actually click on. So, right, so they mentioned this a little while ago. They want to have more players in ground RB, or rather in ground battles at high ranks. I think that's a good idea, however, with the caveat that they need to put high rank ground battles in larger maps more often. You don't want more people in small maps. Absolutely not. They need to make it more like how top tier air has become, where there are larger maps and that's all you get at a certain point in ground battles. So if we're getting larger maps more consistently, this is a good change. If not, they need to make that happen. More people, we need to stay on the bigger maps. The smaller maps, it's not going to work. It's going to be really annoying, at least in my opinion. I'm sure some people will probably disagree, and that's fine. Overall, though, just in general, having more people in the high tier battles, I'm definitely not opposed to. Displaying BR ranges in that filter, that's just nice. So when you go look at the maps, you'll be able to see what BRs can actually see those maps. That's just a nice transparency change. This one's really good. So they're going to change what maps are available to prop planes and jet planes. They're going to bias the larger maps more towards jets. That's very, very important. If we want to play on big maps, we go play Sim. Back in the day, we would play RBEC, but they still haven't added that back, and I'm still waiting. However, you should not be getting full-size maps in props, or even really in low-tier jets. You should not be getting those huge EC-style maps. So, that is obviously very good. This one is very nebulous. This is basically saying we're updating the BRs of late Cold War vehicles that have advanced features like Sabo, ATGMs, stabilizers. I imagine this is to start working on the problem of, for example, late war fancy German tanks fighting, Cold War vehicles, where you have this massive disparity in sort of doctrine and tech versus just the pure armor and firepower that the German tanks have, as an example. Which is a good thing to tackle, but they didn't really go into how they're going to do it. They're changing BRs of specific vehicles. Cool. They didn't really go into the specifics. We'll see what they actually do. That is a good problem to begin looking at, though. They're going to move the attack drones to higher ranks. That is a good change. They're very modern tools, so it's good to be seeing them moving up towards the more modern tank matches. And the concept of they should have SAM systems that are very easily able to counter them is very welcome. Hydroplane respawn points, this is a naval thing, I believe. If I remember correctly, a few people were calling this out as something that should happen. This was a suggested change, and they just added it verbatim from what I can tell. So, good on them for that, assuming the suggestion is good, which it probably was. Reduction of the effectiveness of AI anti-aircraft guns located on fields and convoys in all aircraft modes. This is a beautiful change. If you've played mainly high-tier ground, the AA guns are terrifying, and they're in the middle of the map. Even in mid and low-tier ground, sometimes it's just a roll of the dice. Most of the time, the flat guns do nothing, and then that one match, you assume they're going to do nothing, and they headshot you instantly. It just... Good steps. Good steps are being made in that regard. Glad that it's being looked at. A couple people in particular will be very happy. A couple very loud people will be very happy about that. Assuming the change is actually good. They didn't say anything other than reduction of the effectiveness. But if they're trying and it's implemented correctly, then yeah, good move. Special winter trees for winter versions of locations. Cool. Fixing issues with bushes when shot through or after a collision. No idea what issues they're talking about, but cool. Locations, so they're changing Poland and Eastern Europe. They're going to be reducing the amount of forests and hills, or rather making them more spread out, maybe. And yeah, so fields with small interspersed forests and hills instead. Will get rid of massive problems of standing in forests where no one is visible and will lead to more active gameplay. Conceptually, that's a good idea. What they actually do to these maps, we will see. As well, Changing LL Main, Aral Sea, American Desert, Japan, Sinai, Normandy. They're reducing or removing places from which one can control most of the map. They also do this with Alaska, Svarsk, Vietnam, Maginot Line, 30th Parallel, Stalingrad, and Karelia. So, map changes basically to Poland and Eastern Europe. They want to reduce the sort of forest camping and the hill fighting. And then on all these other maps, they're presumably getting rid of high elevation sniping spots, I would imagine. Which, conceptually, very good. How exactly they change these maps, we will see. The only thing they didn't address here is spawn sniping. Maps where, you drive for 10 seconds and you're immediately engaging the enemy team. That's still a problem. However, starting by tackling these problems shows that they are ready and willing to start working on map design problems at a much higher pace, which is good. Massive revision of asset collision and ground vehicle locations in order to get rid of inconsistencies of visual and physical models. This reads like they are fixing hitboxes. So they're going around to a bunch of different maps and fixing hitbox problems that people have reported where, hey, I drove up around this rock and I shot at a guy and my round hit the rock even though I was aiming 5 feet to the side. I'd imagine that's what they're talking about here, and if so, fantastic. The less of these problems, the better. This is just a thing they should always be doing, and good to see them working on it. If it's something else, then I have no idea what else it could be, because this is the only way that I can really read that. I don't see any other meaning this could possibly have. Improvement of jungles by reducing the number of positions camouflaged by vegetation. Improve visibility, reduce number of shots from ambushes. So basically, less trees, less bushes. I don't know if that's strictly good. How exactly are they going to reduce the trees and bushes? Where? By how much? Who knows? Theoretically, leaning towards less camping and sniping and more aggressive play for gameplay purposes is a good idea. But yet again, implementation is what matters there. They're going to change small caliber heat rounds. Fly access payload inflicting damage. Yeah, they're gonna basically add more, some fragmentation damage to small caliber heat shells. Sounds good. Improved indication of spawn zone protection. So they're going to make it more obvious when you're shooting somebody who is under spawn protection. They're also going to mark you on the map when you shoot at somebody who is under spawn protection. So obviously you're marked when you get close to the enemy spawn, but this means that also if you're firing into the spawn from long distance, you're still going to get spotted. That I think is a good mechanic. It's fair to go flank around or find a good spot and try and cut off the enemy spawn, but that is such a powerful thing to do that it is a good idea to add more of an actual downside to it. So that's good. Finalize mechanics of the commander's sight and tanks, short delay to hunter-killer mechanics. This is something a few people have talked about where it's kind of gamey that you can lose the gunner and just instantly switch to the commander and fire the gun, when in reality, if you lose the gunner, there'll be some kind of delay in crew reaction between losing the gunner and the commander taking over and returning fire with the gun. Realism-wise, I think that makes sense. I personally didn't really have a problem with people being able to immediately switch to the commander and shoot, because, at a certain BR, you just recognize that some tanks have that ability, and so when you see, you knocked out the gunner, unless you also see that you knocked out the commander and or knocked out the barrel or breach, you should be assuming that they can still shoot you and kill you. But I can see why it can be frustrating. And overall, it is a realism change, and I support realism changes, so there we go. This was already talked about, accepting apologies for team kills. Destructible 3D decorations, this has been talked about before. They're allowing damage to be applied to 3D decorations on tanks. They're not making them part of the hitbox or anything, but basically when that area of the tank takes damage, those things can be, damaged or knocked off. That's kind of cool. A little extra visual detail. Okay. They mention here solving one of the problems of ghost shells, but what they're actually doing is adjusting how the server handles when you shoot after you've technically been killed. So because of latency, technical terms probably correct. Because of the delay between your input being processed by your computer, sent up to the server, and then the server actually processing what's going on, there can be situations where it looks like you have just barely fired your gun as somebody kills you, but your shot doesn't do anything. What's actually happening is when you pulled that trigger, you were already dead, but the server had not yet communicated to you that you were dead. That is your two-way ping delay at work. What they're doing is basically making it, they're adjusting the sort of leeway in that delay to favor you actually getting that shot off, which from a player satisfaction standpoint, I think it's a good change. I don't know, this one's kind of odd. It's not really ghost shells. Ghost shells are more when you fire and your shell disappears, not because you were already technically dead, but it just vanishes with no reason. That's a ghost shell. This is an entirely different thing, but I can certainly see from their perspective and from a player satisfaction perspective why this is a good move. So that's what they're doing. Refinement of collision solver in order to fix situations when a tank that is flipped on its turret top is almost impossible to turn over. I personally haven't seen this very much, but I think a couple people have complained about getting into situations where they've flipped over and it's impossible to be righted even by teammates with tow cables. So that's good. Improve target hit alert in aircraft battles. This is a good one. So, currently, and for a very long time, when someone is technically killed in an air battle, they can still have some control over their aircraft. They have control over their guns as long as the pilot is alive. They have control over all their weapons. And they can still control the aircraft with all surfaces that are still actually able to be used. So the game may consider someone dead because, for example, their wing was shot off. But they can still, they might be spinning in circles, but they can still fire weapons. They can still lock a missile, whatever. And sometimes you can knock somebody out, say, okay, they're dead, turn away. Meanwhile, while they're corkscrewing through the air, they fire a last missile off at you because it happens to line up the shot. And then you die from somebody that you had assumed, because the game told you had already knocked out and they were no longer a threat. So they're going to delay when they actually mark someone as dead to sort of alleviate that, make them appear as having not been killed yet for longer, so that you consider them a threat for longer. During that sort of pseudo period where they've been knocked out, but they still have some control and maybe are still pointing at you or able to point at you. Which is a band-aid solution, but it's better than nothing. And the other thing they're going to do is, along with that, whether it's on the same delay or not, I don't know, it's not clear, but after a certain amount of time, they're considering wrenching away control of the aircraft, basically. Which is annoying for situations where you could potentially glide back to, or fly back to base with a lot of damage, but usually you can't repair in those situations anyways, and in all other situations, it's a good idea. You shouldn't be sitting in the cockpit for 20 seconds in a flat spin, just flat spinning towards the ground, waiting to get a lucky lineup with a missile shot to kill the guy who killed you. That shouldn't happen. If your bomber gets shot down and your wing is off and you're spinning through the air, you shouldn't be sitting in the tail gunner's seat trying to get a single headshot off on the fighter that killed you. It's funny, but it really shouldn't be a thing that happens. So this is good. This is very good. It's a move in the right direction. They'll probably make some more adjustments over time, but it's a good start. They're also going to add a more convenient way to report hate speech in chat, which is, I guess they're going to separate that out as a separate reporting function. Sure. The good change here, the objectively good change, is that when you report something like this, they're going to actually save the chat log. Or rather, they're going to show you the chat log that they saved. It's one of those two. Regardless, that is useful, whether it's showing it to you or saving the chat log that it wouldn't have otherwise saved. This is useful, at the very least. Now, the actual roadmap of when things are happening. So, this is the last thing we got to look at. And we start with this month. So, or rather even we start with the La Royale update, which is tomorrow, or when this goes up, probably today. So with this update, it's mostly going to be stuff they were already planning on doing, which is understandable. The update has probably been packaged and ready to go for days, so they can't implement other stuff into it quite yet. Stuff they will be doing in this update that's coming out pretty much right now. They're doing the Strike UAV change, the hydroplane respawn points, reduction of AA gun effectiveness, that's really, really good. Fancy winter trees, cool. Fixing the problem with bushes, whatever that was. They are disabling night battles temporarily. They are adding more players into high-tier ground battles. They're changing the heat rounds, and they are doing the collision tank stuck fix thing. So that's all they're doing tomorrow/today. Later in the month, they are doing all of the Silver Lions changes. Or rather, they're doing the start of them. So increasing reward multiplier, reducing cost of repair. And grouping repair costs into vehicle rank and type. They are adding the BR range display to the map filter, and they are moving the big maps up to higher tier aircraft. And then the last thing they're doing later this month is they are doing the really big one, the stock countermeasures and free parts and FPE. That's coming this month. That is awesome. Summer, which presumably means July and August, somewhere in there. We get the first RP changes. So more foldering and cutting the folder vehicle cost in half. The reduction of costs for rank 6 and 7 planes. Breaking battle ranges, yeah. The improvements to the sort of late war and early Cold War interaction era of BRs. Reduction of research and price cost. I think that's a typo. They included the rank 6 to rank 7 thing twice. That's interesting. The gameplay, spawn zone protection indicators, the commander sight delay, firing delay, the hate speech chat report functionality, improvements to the premium account improvement, which was really nice, free backups to premium vehicles, dynamic repair cost reduction, capture point reward for partial credit, free repair if your team killed, mission point reward for repairing and fire extinguishing assists of allies, researching helicopters by playing ground vehicles, and all of the map changes. They're doing all of that in the next 2 or 3 months. That'll be July and or August. And then autumn 2023. So this would be a September major update. It's unclear exactly, at least to me, where exactly they're going to be putting all these updates. So this basically says there's going to be a major update in September, but then they put the next major update in October to November, which is really odd, because usually the updates are about 3 months apart, but this would mean it's 1 to 2 months apart, which would be very interesting. But regardless, in autumn, so essentially September, pretty much just September, maybe late August, you get all this stuff. So the skill-based RP bonuses, or performance-based RP bonuses, the detailed battle report window showing where your RP and SL gains come from, naval progression revision, that they specifically say may be postponed. Oh no, all the naval players. Night battles come back as an optional opt-in. Apologizing for team kills, destructible 3D decorations, reworking the network stuff with the quote-unquote ghost shell problem. The kill marking players as being killed in air battles change. The last SL change, so showing SL gain in the battle results screen where everything comes from. Sim battles, all the battle task stuff. The being able to log into the mobile app to get the daily login reward. And changing the jungle map. That is all pre-October, post-July, that area. And then finally at the very end, in our big end-of-year update, whenever that comes, probably in mid-November if I had to guess, that's when we get the bonus towards researching new trees if you have already finished a tree. So that is everything. That is everything that they're going to do and when they are going to do it. When they'd better do it, at the very least. And yeah, overall some very positive stuff. It's just really nice. If they actually follow through with all this, this is going to be one of the most positive periods in the community's history. It'd be really nice to just genuinely like War Thunder. Looking forward to it. So, that took entirely too long to get through, but I have done my job of fully explaining all of these things and going through it all. So I did what I came here to do, and I hope this was of some use and maybe a little entertainment to you. See y'all around.